Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we got a fun one for you today. We got a little hero section with my logo, bit of info there, a couple of call to action buttons, and a little scroll down icon. And you may have noticed when we scroll down there, it's got a little parallax image in the background there. Really easy to do, really eye-catching thing to have on your site. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the visual builder. Okay, well let's start a new section and we'll delete the top section here. Little blue button, start a new section. Now I could put in a full width section. They've actually got a full width hero section thing in there. It's got a lot of the features that we've got here, but I'm going to build mine from scratch because I've got more control over it that way. So I'm going to put a regular section in. I'm going to put a single column in there. And initially, I'm going to use the great little Blurb module. Now, before we go any further, let's just delete what we've got going on up here. Delete this section. Okay, while we're here, I'm going to put a color in the background here, just so we can see what's going on. Let's just make a quick black color. Okay, for my little Blurb module, dark tab for the module, green tab for the row. I'm going to go in there, we'll put a little title in, and we'll add a little bit of content. Perfect. I know you can't see it too well there, but we'll adjust that all in a moment. If we go down a little bit, we'll put a little image and icon in. I'm going to use an image rather than an icon today. I'm going to pop my logo in there. I've got a light version of it here, so I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to roll down a little bit. If you want to put a custom link, perhaps the root directory of your site, you can do so there. I'm not going to use the full size one. I'm going to use perhaps a medium one, 300 by 82. That'll work for me. As you can see, that's popped in that in there. Link wise, if you want to link this whole module to somewhere, you can put a link in right there, or just the title right there. I don't particularly want to do this for mine today. Always best practice though, if you're linking to your own site, leave it in the same window. If you're linking off-site to somebody else's site, open it in a new tab. That way your website's going to stay open. Okay, background, don't need that right now. Design-wise, well, I've got my image and icon. It's just fine where it is. You can make it bigger or smaller with the image or icon width here. Alignment's fine in the middle. I don't want to put any corners or borders on there at all. So let's roll down a little bit further. We've got our text. I want all my text to be in the middle. I want it to be light in color, so we can see it. There we go, that's a bit better. And you can do the title text and body text separately. We'll go into the title text. Let's perhaps make it the light color blue that I've got for my little logo up there. I've got a free Chrome color picker up here. I get that color, copy it. I'm going to make my heading that color, clicking on the heading, pasting that little bit of hex code in there. That's great. I want to make it perhaps semi-bold and a bit bigger. Well, I think I'm going to capitalize it too. Here's a slider for making it a little bit bigger there. Whatever size works for you. You can choose any font you want. Divi has got a huge range of fonts. To audition one, just roll over it. It'll give you an example. I'm going to stick with the default today. Great. Well, that's working pretty well. My content though here, I'd like to be a little more spread out. My row comes to about here. By default, with the Blurb module, if I close up this and we go down to sizing, content width on the Blurb module there is about 550 pixels. I'm going to change that to 100 and the % sign. So it'll take up all the available space within this row right here. Great. Now underneath there, I want to add a couple of buttons. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to add another row, little green button to add a new row. I'm going to put 2 columns in. I'll pop a button in one. And this button, I'm going to go over to design. I'm going to align it to the right. I'm going to change the color so it's similar color to our writing up there. In the button, go in there, use custom styles for button, and button text color here. I'm going to pop that in there. We still got it in the clipboard, so we've got that same color there. Fantastic. You can decorate this how you like with button backgrounds, and you can add a hover effect by hitting the little arrow there. Once you hit the little arrow, you'll find two tabs, desktop and hover. You can have different settings for each. I'm going to leave mine just as it is for the moment. Great. Well, let's save that. I'm going to duplicate it. If you roll over it, two little squares there to duplicate. I'm going to drag the other one into my second column over here. I'm going to go in there. Now, obviously, you're going to want to link these buttons somewhere. Let's have this one say perhaps more info or whatever works for you. And at the moment, it's right aligned because we copied that other one. Let's go over to our design, alignment. We're going to left align this one. But we want to make sure these buttons are center aligned on tablet and mobile. So roll up over the button itself, hit the little cell phone type icon. We can flip to tablet mode. And we're working with a more info one at the moment. I'm going to pop that in the middle. And of course, under the content is where you want to put your link. I've got no real link. I'll just put a hashtag in there. We want to do the same for this one, the actual click here as well, because that's aligned right at the moment. So we'll go into this module and do exactly the same thing. Back to design, alignment. Going to hover over the dark writing, get the little mobile phone icon up on tablet. I want to make sure it's center aligned. That's great. Well, let's switch back to desktop now. Okay, underneath I'm going to add a little icon so we can scoot down to the next section here. So again, I'm going to add a new little row for my icon. We use a single column. And we're going to pop in an icon module, funnily enough. And I want a down arrow. That one will do fine right there. Again, I'm going to make it that same color. I've still got that code in my clipboard. So if we go over to design, icon color, I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to paste that hex code in there. I'm going to make it a bit smaller, perhaps 50 pixels or something like that. Whatever works for you. And if you wanted to, we can make it grow on hover. Very easy to do. Still in the design tab, we can go down to transform. First tab is scale right there. Now common to all Divi modules. If you hover over the dark writing, you'll see some icons appear. We know what that one does. There's an arrow right there that I mentioned earlier. Let's create this hover effect. Desktop, when the mouse is not on it, I want it to be that size. When they put their mouse on it, I want it to grow perhaps by 40%. Let's take it up to 140. And you can hit the little arrows there. You can increment up and down there. Or we can fine tune these little arrows over here. 140, that's great. As long as you've got that chain check, it'll do both sides at once for you. Perfect. Well, we don't want this to link to the section below. So let's put a link in here. Over in content is always where you'll find a link. And I'm going to use an anchor tag. So I'm going to say link to hashtag down. And I'll give the section below an ID of down, and it'll roll down to that section. Save that. If we go to the section below, I know it's already got an ID of next. I think at the moment we can get rid of that. Over to advanced, CSS ID and classes there. There's the next. Let's just put down. Now when you click on that arrow, it's going to roll down to this section here. Fantastic. Okay, to make this a little more interesting, I had a little sort of Android type guy over here. So again, I'm going to add a new little row for this. Again, I'm going to use a single column. I'm going to pop an image in there. And if you want to, you can add a link and everything like that. I really don't want to do that with my image. There's the fella I'm going to grab. And here he is down here. I'm going to go over to design. Alignment wise, I think I'm going to pop him on the left where he is at the moment. That's absolutely fine. Sizing, I'm going to force in full width, so he's full size there. And if we go down to spacing, if I roll down to the bottom here, show space below the image. No, I don't want any space there. I want him sitting on the bottom of our section. Perfect, just like that. But of course, I don't want him sitting down there. I want him to be up over here. Great, well, let's save that. So to do that, I'm going to go into the row that he's sitting in. I'm going to click on the row. Going to go over to Advanced and Position. I'm going to change the position relative to absolute. As you can see, he's jumped up a little bit. I want him sitting on the bottom corner right there. That's great, but I want him a little bit further over. So I can use my horizontal offset here to scoot him where I want him, which is somewhere over here, just in the frame. Fantastic. But we want to check this on tablet and mobile. I think on mobile I'll hide him. So again, we know how to do that. Hover up over the dark writing there. Hit the little mobile phone icon. We'll switch to tablet view. That's not too bad, but he's a little bit far off the thing there. And of course he's shrunk down. So I'm going to pull him in just a little bit so he's more in the frame. Fantastic. And on mobile, I don't think this is going to work. So we'll probably hide him on mobile. So if we go to the mobile phone setting right here, yeah, he shrinks down too much there. So what we can do is hide this whole row on mobile very easily. Still in the advanced, we'll close up position. We'll go down to visibility. And we'll say disable on phone. You'll still see him in the builder, but he's grayed out a little bit to let you know that we've hidden him on this device. Great. So let's save that. And this is starting to shape up a bit. I think I want a little bit more space between my title and my text there. So let's go back into this blurb module. Go to design, or you can just hover over and hit the little paintbrush that's associated with it. I'm going to go to my title text here. I'm going to up the line height just to give it a bit more breathing room right there. Something like that. Obviously adjust it for what works for you. Okay, well, let's put a bit more interesting image in the background of our section here. And then we can put some backgrounds over our buttons and text there so they stand out against the image. So I'm going to save the changes there. We'll go back into the section. Remember, it's a blue tab for the section. Always find background under content. I'm going to add an image this time. I'm going to go over to image, the third tab here. I'm going to add a background image. I think that's the one I used before. Fantastic. But for interest value, I'm going to use a parallax effect. I'm going to switch this from no to yes. I'm going to leave it on true parallax. That way it moves at a different rate. Still actually moving, but it's moving at a different rate than the rest of the site there. It's actually very, very smooth. But my screen recording software may make it look a little glitchy, but it is a very smooth and good looking effect. I just noticed when I hover over this chap, it's got the name of the image on there. I'm going to remove that in a moment. Great, so I'm fairly happy with that. Let's go back in to this row here and we'll remove the name that pops up when you hover over that image. Easiest and quickest way to do that, because we've got overlapping elements here, is go down to the little purple button, hit the little wireframe view icon down here on the left. That'll take us to the back end. And here we are with our little hero section. There's the blurb, there's the two buttons, there's the icon, here's the image. I just want to go in there over in advanced, and attributes is where you find the name. You can just delete it if you don't want it to appear when they hover over it. Or you can change it to something more pertinent for your site. Fantastic. Okay, back to desktop mode. I want to go into my rows here. I'm going to take away any gutters and I'm going to give it a background. The reason I'm taking away any gutters, I want it to sit directly on top of the one below it. So I've gone to design inside the row, going to sizing, use a custom gutter width. I'm going to take that down to 0. Let's give this row a little background so we can make things stand out a bit better. Remember, background's always under content. I'll give it a black. That'll be a bit too much, but you can see where it is there. Fantastic. I also want to give it a little bit of padding left and right, so our writing's got a bit of breathing space. So firstly, I'm going to take the opacity on this color down. I'm going to click on the color, this little variegated slider. I'm going to take the opacity down till we can see through it, maybe about 50%, 0.5 on the end there. That's fine. While we're here, I'm going to go into the design and the spacing. I'm going to give it a bit of padding left and right. We could even give it a bit top and bottom if you wanted more space between it and the buttons. I think the space there is okay. Maybe give it a bit more on the top. So let's give it, say, 40 pixels left. And hit the chain, it'll do the right. That gives that a bit more breathing room there. And let's give it maybe 50 pixels on the top, perhaps. That's better. And I'm going to give it rounded corners, but I'm just going to give it rounded corners on the top because I'm going to do a similar color for our buttons down below. And we'll put the bottom curves on the button one. So if I go down to border just below, I'm going to uncheck the chain and let's give it 30 pixels left. Gives it a rounded corner there and 30 pixels right. And it's still square at the bottom there. So we've got curved corners there and it's great on the bottom. Now I'm going to save this, just what we want. We'll go into the row below, which is fine, but we can't actually get to it because we've got this absolute position one on top. So what I'm going to do to make sure that this one's not on top all the time, because it may interfere with the button when it gets smaller or something, I'm going to go back into this top row, the green tab there, Advanced, Position. We roll down, you'll find Z index. I'm going to give this a Z index of 20, and what Z index does, it determines what elements stack on top of other elements. So something with a higher number will always be on top of something with a lower number. So I'm going to give this one 20. Then I'm going to go to my wireframe view and we'll give one below 20 and we'll give the one the image is sitting in a 10. So it'll be behind. So let's go back to wireframe. Here's our button row, blurb one we just done. Over in advanced, down to position. There's the Z index again. I'm going to give it 20 again. And here's the one with our image in it. Going to go into that row, over to advanced, position, Z index of this one, I'm just going to give it 10. So it should appear behind our other rows now, which is great. So that little Android, if he overlaps that text there on smaller screen sizes, will go behind it. Let's pop back to regular mode. And we'll go up. Now we can access this row fine because it's back on top again. So I just want to go in here. I want to change that background color. Going to give it a black. And I took the opacity down to about 50%. 0.5. And you see it matches with the top one. This is why I didn't use their inbuilt one, because I can have much more control about the backgrounds and spacing of individual items here without having to do any CSS coding. Great. Well, if we've done everything correctly now, we should be good to go. Let's save our changes here. Now, one thing I've just spotted, I need to go back in here. We'll give those rounded corners on the bottom of this button section. Back into the green tab for the row, over to design, down to border. Uncheck the chain because we don't want to do all four at once. And I think I gave them 30 pixels, didn't I? 30 pixels left and 30 pixels right. Fantastic. And if you wanted to, you could give them a little bit more space on the bottom for the buttons. Let's perhaps do that. I'm going to go to spacing. I'm going to go to padding bottom. Try 50, that may be too much. But I think that's okay. Great. Well, let's save our changes now. Save draft or publish if you're ready. And let's exit the Visual Builder. And there's our little hero section there. If I roll down slowly, you'll see it's got that parallax effect to it. We've got that little down arrow. It will take you to the next section, or actually wherever you want to take them with a little anchor tag in there. And we can get to our little call to action buttons. We can read that text nicely because it's got that background on there and see the logo and everything like that. Let's take a look on a tablet. I'm going to hit my F12 key. I'm using Google Chrome with the inspector tool. Here it is on iPad Air. Let's make that a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. That's fine. See everything nicely there. Our little chap, he's gone behind our text section there. That's absolutely perfect. We've still got that parallax effect. And let's have a look on the phone. And that little Android chap should have disappeared on the phone. Let's have a look on the iPhone 12. Yep, he's disappeared. And that works. If you've got more text, you can change the line height and the size of the text on tablet, mobile versions quite easily, the same as we did with the positioning. But I think that's actually going to work for me. Great. So there you go, guys. There's how to create a Parallax hero section. It's going to stand out and get people's attention pretty quickly. I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and WebDesignerTechTips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.